Well, you get it. This'll do. This'll do. So here's a little bit of an issue. I wonder if we have an RCS to actually affect a reasonable rotation here to get to our maneuver node. Here's to be a game, you must have a narrative. When narrative ends, it becomes a simulation. But in postmodern sense, interacting with those systems and emergent narrative is itself a narrative. So classification of a game dependent on the narrow view of narrative. I think the difference is Huthor is where is the narrative? In a postmodern sense, narrative is defined by the observer. I see a narrative because I see a number of objects on the table and my brain goes, that's breakfast. And that's, me putting that in. You could argue, of course, in a Lombard sense that the author is dead, so even in a story, the same would be happening, etc. But I think that the very difference is there are games that impose a structure, even though you choose to accept that structure. But there are games that impose structures and things that don't. And even if you take this game, Kerbal Space Program, it hints that you want to go to space. But it doesn't nudge you in any direction except, oh, wait. There are contracts. That complicates the matter. There are contracts. My god, this is the time I should be stopping the stream. Darn it. I want to finish this mission. The contract's complicated. Okay. So it's over-engineered, maybe 10-15% extra fuel. Yeah, well, I mean, at this point, as you can see, since I was expecting to do this with this set, that's where I put the RCS, not here, so that makes it a little bit tricky. Can game scholarship be a thing anyway? A thing already? Huthor, it is. There are game theorists. There are plenty of game theorists, and I'm not talking in a mathematical sense. I'm talking in the literal sense. People who study the effect of games. It is a subfield of cultural theory. The Legos, and you have a whole tub of them. You just start building. That's play, right? Yeah, exactly, Fub. That is how House kind of fight it as well. You are playing, but you're not. It's not a game that you're playing. Oh, darn it. He's not trained enough. If, say, a village emerges, then you already have a narrative. It's a story of a village. I think, Fub, that's a very good point. That is, I think, where a toy transitions over into game. And that, I think, illustrates very well that the game isn't in the Legos. The Legos are just a means to build something. But indeed, as you said, if you build a village, then you, the user who's playing with the toys, you impose a narrative on it, because you're saying this is now a village. I say this is a village, and with that comes a whole set of cognitive rules. It's a village. What type of village is it? There'll be a theme, or there'll be some kind of boundary to where the village starts and where it stops, who can live in the village, what can live in the village. Maybe, and you can see that if like somebody builds a spaceship and then somebody else goes, that spaceship shouldn't be in the village, or somebody builds something that's maybe not to scale, and somebody can say, hey, that's not the rule of the game right now. And that's actually, this is something that Huizinga also explored quite a lot. The difference between plays and games. And there, 3, 2, 1, burn. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. should be relatively good. Yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah. That's one thing he was arguing as well, where rules don't have to be defined in advance. Like there's formally structured games, like, you know, to go back to chess or poker, you don't generally change the rule of the game while you're playing the game. But for example, in children's games, that often happens, particularly in make-believe, where something gets added, something gets changed. And that's been actually a source of some very interesting studies where they try to explore how does that work? How do children know, you know, when a rule can be changed and how they can do that and how can they do that on the fly? It is actually a real fascinating... Wait, that was weird. Real fascinating field of research. I have to adjust this quite a bit. Probably gonna have to go more along these lines. This is very strange. Games exist in a quantum state, they only exist when played. It's also linked to RPGs. The rules of the RPG are not the game is what happens at the table. Yeah, a lot of RPGs, not all of them, there are RPGs that actually don't do this, but a lot of RPGs are simulations. And there, again, you can see the game is brought into it by the players. They are the ones who move into it. And that's, for example, what you can see with rules for diplomacy. That's where you can see that exact bit breaks down. The simulation doesn't simulate for it, but often the players will want some kind of means to do it. And that's where the two hit each other. Oh, there we go. What kind of encounter do we have at this point? Should I have such focus on the fiction? Yeah. All this is why one of the biggest issues facing development of the industry is a wider spread of game studies in universities. Yeah. And I think specifically, Huthor, what you're talking about is for video games. Because as I said, there is actually quite a lot of study being done on games and play, but not in the practical sense. And that is, I think, what you're interested in, the more practical aspect of, you know, actual physical games, or digital, I guess. You know what? I think I can accept this. This will be a good approach. It's a little bit more than I'd need to, but you know what? It gets the job done. Okay, we're gonna need to. Darn it! How much Delta V do I have? 700. This is thrown off. And again, this is the mandatory RCS mod that keeps me rotating in Time Warp. Children game, it's too much complicated for a modern computer. Actually, most games human beings play are too difficult for actual modern computers. If any of you have played Nomic, never done. It starts with democratic voting to change the rules of the game. The objective is to create a state in which you are the winner. It's always in a state of flux. Just as, I guess, flux. Best RPGs are bad simulations. Realism in RPG sucks. Well, there's a difference though, Fub. I think all RPGs are simulations to a certain degree. The only problem is, what do they simulate and how? Like, the worst simulation, like, what is it, Aces to 8? Is very detailed and realistic. But a simulation doesn't have to necessarily be realistic. It just needs to simulate. So, for example, you can get, and that's, I think, the best RPGs that I know, simulate a genre or a style, and they'll sacrifice realism, the simulation of realism, to simulate the feeling of a certain property more. This, by the way, is, I think, one of the major problems in trying to discuss philosophy and philosophical approaches with the normal discourse, because half of the time you're going, no, I'm using this word in a very specific context, and it just sounds like somebody going, yeah, no, I totally didn't lose that argument. Whereas, actually, what is happening is like, no, I mean, when you use the word pragmatic, it means something else than when I use the word pragmatic. You can do context-flexible rules with the machine, which counts only true and false states. Yeah, and I think one of the problems with that, though, is those would still have to be predefined to a certain degree. I don't know how flexible those rules can be. There are a plethora of 3 art courses and programming courses, but very few courses that study the DNA of games, what constitute them. How do you make games? Should make the video games distinction, yeah. Hey, with our philosophy in Twitch chat, that would be an amazing. Just go full on IRL and just do philosophy every week. Get a free philosophy degree with Byronic. Well, gamer doesn't work then anymore. This, by the way, is going to go terribly wrong, because what we're going to do is use 756 of the 919 delta V of these engines. So we're going to miss our specific mark anyway. At your point, any RPG games that claims to add realism is guaranteed to suck. Yeah, pretty much every RPG I know that adds realism ends up being terrible. But pen and paper RPG, I think we should specify, because Aces to 8, 2, 1, burn is pen and paper, and the reason why it doesn't end up being good is because there's too much calculation to be done. Just shooting somebody with a shotgun in that game has the players do loads of individual little calculations and random effects to determine where each individual pellet is and that kind of a thing. That would already be made a whole lot easier with a computer, which could, of course, automate a lot of that. Which is what makes... I don't know why it does that. Which is, of course, what makes video games so interesting. I guess there's still the other issue then, of course, of how much simulation is interesting, because in Aces to 8s, you can play perfectly, be absolutely safe, and then what you might run into... No, that wasn't half bad. Is that you accidentally caught the measles and died. That's the kind of game that Aces to 8s is. There we go. That is quite lovely. Let's get into a circular orbit. Did I just miss something? There we go, that's what I missed. We have so much delta V. This is going to be more than enough. All that we need. Let's turn off our RCS. I don't want to use too much. I probably, in fact, should have... Did I not have extra RCS? Oh, I had RCS here. This one I should probably transfer to that other part. We can, by now, deploy this, which I should have adjusted but didn't. And of course, we need to deploy the solar panels. Check our life support status. We now have perpetual battery. Excellent. And we are doing fine. Let's see if there's any signs here now. Let's turn that on. Let's not do that goo observation. Oh, no, 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 wait, whoa, no, 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 that's not what I wanted to do. Don't click. No, no, thank you. Oh, that sign's here now. It's going to be annoying. Let's turn that off. We can coast until we reach our new sphere of influence. Should be good. Let's F5. Anxious to pour for these suggestions. It does get, particularly when you start going into philosophy, it does get real specific on English and specific terms and very, very narrow grammar as well. Darn it, I wanted to be done with the stream already by now. Twitch plays Nietzsche? Now that would be amazing. But you know what he said, you know, Twitch is dead. There we go, perfect. Our Kerbals are absolutely safe. Let's start using our RCS to make some adjustments. Original Traveler. Oh, I remember. Character could die during character creation. Yeah, I remember that. That was amazing. Take another tour of duty with the Scouting Corps for extra skill points. Roll unlucky. Bam, you're dead. Yeah, exactly. That's that was amazing about Traveler. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. One thing they did do is that rotation, which would normally go on unabated, doesn't if you have a pilot, because it's assumed that the pilot will help with stability for the craft. Zero level pilot, that will be an interesting landing. He's level 1. Lemdred. Even so though, with 0 levels, that's okay. I do a lot of it manually anyway. Although it does help when you can just log on to retrograde. We have so much. Now that we have all that fuel that we took out of the main tank, this one is so ridiculously full. Ah, that little kitty. He is not happy with me not... so wasteful with the RCS. So wasteful with the RCS. Okay. So yeah, this was the only limit. If you have a pilot on there with the mandatory RCS, it does kill the rotation. Just because it assumes, hey, the pilot... We're fast forwarding, but the pilot is constantly making tiny adjustments. And that is actually something a reaction wheel could do. The only real difference is that reaction wheels don't get saturated. And this is about the exact balance I want between realism and... well, what would you call it? Simulationism. But now the term simulation has become muddied for us. That's why I'm also thinking about the ignition mod, which limits the number of ignitions you can do with an engine, just as in real life, with real engines. But I'm thinking that might just make it too difficult. Unrelated Obi-Wan Kenobi standalone movies in the work? Huh. Who's going to play Obi-Wan? Wow, Vaden. Ghostbusters is still stuck up there for you? Still a real issue for you? Okay, let's start focusing. 1. Yeah, you know, maybe Obi-Wan self-identifies as a bantha. You don't know. Let's move that periapsis down to about 1500. That's fine. There we go. Now we can start winging it a little bit more. Give me a warning when we reach the periapsis. Thank you. Let's, by the way, at this point, also start getting in touch with home. Got about Ghostbusters. You still have to see that one. I find it odd. I thought it was fun. It was an okay movie. I don't get why people really get so bothered by it. Ewan McGregor expressed interest in reprising his role not so long ago, and you were all about that. You want a Seven Samurai style movie with Obi-Wan? Now that would be nice. Okay, let's move this party along. Rogue One was a war movie. Han Solo will be a Western. Obi-Wan can be a samurai movie. That would be amazing. I would be all for that. Okay, let's lower this periapsis a little bit. And let's pick a nice landing spot. Oh, I suddenly realize we can't just land everywhere. We need to make sure that we land on a specific region. There it is. Now, can I just do a biomap overlay? There we go. Great Flats. Great. Oh, that's the Mun. Of course, that doesn't work. Minmus, Great Flats. While landed at the Great Flats. We did do some science in the Great Flats. Midlands. Midlands would be okay. Oh, there we go. That's where I want to land. Which ends up working out just fine. So can I just... Whoa! There we go. Get a little... Wait. Where did that maneuver... Wow, okay. This thing is being very awkward. Let's... Actually, we have enough delta V to just do this. There's really no point in not doing this. Let's not draw the overlay. We're gonna be fine landing there. Snow is in 4 minutes. Oh wait, that's on the dark side of Minmus. Let's not land there. You'd save some fuel for the last stage? No, that's fine. The last stage has 1200 delta V. Look at that, or 1100. This will get it back home. Okay, let's see where we can land here that we haven't been before. Wow, okay, that is... Lowlands, Greater Flats... I think we've been to the Lowlands, haven't we? We've been to the lowlands. This is not handy. We've been to the Great Flats. That's something we've established. Lowlands, 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 Greater Flats. This is awkward. Hold on, maybe it's easier if I just do this using the big map. A Macross RPG? Macross, is that the... You've spoken of that before. Isn't that the what would you call it? I forget what those are called. The big wingsuits? The lower you send, the more fuel you spend for landing. Oh yeah, but I have plenty of fuel. Going through your sim gamulation playthrough of modded Skyrim? But if you never start the main quest, well, then you're just basically masturbating. So don't make us come in there, Huthor. We've been to the lowlands. We've been to the Great Flats. That is tricky. Although, we haven't done that much at the Great Flats. Okay, you know what? We're sitting down in the Great Flats. That'll be worth it. Plus, they're flat. It'll help. There we go. See, this just takes 156 delta V. We have 940 in the stage that was meant to get us to Minmus. We have so much, it is ridiculous. This is still a stage that we're going to be dumping. Okay. That is one of the rovers. Lovely. And we are above our target. Okay, this is interesting. This is going to be the first time I've done this with RCS required. Also, we've completed the contract, of course. We have done a survey around the... Oh, wait, that's the other contract for 80 signs. Lovely. That was the survey that we needed to do. The satellite we need to keep in orbit. Let's make sure we focus on our monopropellant. A mecha anime. Yes, that's what I was thinking of. Oh god, Vin, the 150 mods, that sounds terrible. Okay, I need to focus a little bit on landing this baby safely. I'm definitely be cutting tomorrow short. So we have so much freaking delta V right now. We really don't need to be worrying about anything. Except, you know, accidentally pressing shift when you need to be pressing alt. One thing we can do is deploy that baby. Here's the thing. This has not been in use yet. Good. This monopropellant has not been in use yet. It looks like we're really